I want to talk about one of the most important subjects in medicine, which is dosages. And there are two sides to this. There's the pharmaceutical side and natural medicine side. The 400-year-old philosophy of Western medicine is the dose makes the poison. And as such, Western medicine defines everything as a poison. Even water is a poison because you can drown in a bucket of water. But in practice, pharmaceuticals are poisons. They're mitochondrial poisons. What sustains the statement is that every single pharmaceutical, without exception, has side effects. And sometimes we can consider the side effects as the main effect of medicine, which is the effect of the poisonous nature of medicine. So, following the philosophy of the dose makes the poison, they reduce the dosage to the minimal possible dosage so they don't kill you or poison you to death. And yet, in the United States alone, over 100,000 people die every year from properly prescribed medicines. It's a lot of people. So there is no doubt that there's a problem with taking poisons. They poison you. Sometimes slowly, sometimes very quickly. The mRNA vaccine sometimes kills a person very quickly. Medical authorities don't want to talk about that. And then there's the natural medicines, which I don't consider as poison. I don't consider water as a poison. We need to drink water every day. Sure, if you drink 10 gallons, it might kill you. There's always this aspect of there's too much of anything, even too much of anything good. It can be harmful. But let's talk within reason. In natural medicine, instead of the dose makes the poison, we say the dose makes the therapeutic effect. Let's take magnesium, for example. And this is the whole world of the difference between supplements and medicine in terms of natural medicine. Taking 300 milligrams a day of magnesium is supplement. And if one is not magnesium deficient, meaning probably eats spinach 5 times a day, 300 or 400 milligrams would be considered a supplement. But if you want to use magnesium as a medicine, then you have to look at the reality of going to the highest dose possible. And there are a few doctors in the world, I'm friends with one of them from England, that when a person is dying in ICU or emergency room of cardiac arrest, and they have administered all of their medicines, everything that they have in their protocol, and the person is laying there dying. What would a brilliant doctor do? They would inject or give an IV of magnesium, supplying a very high dose to the blood, and it works like a charm. I knew a retired pediatrician who's now passed away. He was also diabetic. He also had magnesium wasting disease, which is a rare disorder where the kidneys don't hold the magnesium and just excrete it. He had diabetic feet, and he controlled his neuropathy of his feet with 20 grams of magnesium a day. That's a lot of magnesium. And he said a regular person who didn't have magnesium wasting disease, but still wanted to use it as a medicine, should use 2 or 3 grams a day. I became famous in the world of medicine for my first real medical book, which was Transdermal Magnesium Therapy, which talked about all the different forms and ways of applying magnesium. But the title was introducing transdermal, putting a product called magnesium oil, which is 35% magnesium chloride, on the skin for transdermal or topical absorption. The problem with magnesium deficiency is it's not like filling up a tank of gas, where from one day to another you can address your magnesium deficiency. It takes months. Though if you dose, of course, there's a limit to how much you can take orally, and that's why combining oral with transdermal is a good idea. There's a limit to how much you can take orally, which is called bowel tolerance. It takes too much magnesium orally in your mouth and opens up the intestines, and you get diarrhea, which is not a terrible thing because it cleans out the intestines. But it's a good way of finding your maximum dose and then reducing it maybe down 70% of that. Diarrhea goes away, the body gets used to the higher dosage, and then you increase. But it takes months to really address magnesium deficiencies, which, by the way, is call it a pandemic or epidemic. Modern medicine, using the wrong kind of magnesium tests, the serum, blood tests, still concede that, between 50 and 67%, depending on what study you've seen, are magnesium deficient. My estimate is that 99% of chronically ill people are magnesium deficient. If you're sick, almost impossible to be sufficient in magnesium. It's impossible, and doctors and the mainstream still insist that you can eat enough magnesium. Nobody can eat enough magnesium. Magnesium deficiencies compound themselves because people are not getting enough magnesium every day, so their deficiency accumulates year by year. And magnesium is crucial. It's crucial for insulin production, the geometry of insulin, so its efficiency, and cell wall receptivity to insulin. So magnesium deficiency is a great part of diabetes, metabolic syndrome, prediabetes. But doctors don't talk about it, and they don't prescribe magnesium. And there's a whole list of things. Let's just talk about selenium, dosage of selenium. With almost every selenium product on the market, the basic dosage is 200 micrograms. Some people go to 400 or 600 micrograms. But if you use the right type of selenium, called lipid selenium, selenium bonded to a fat, to a lipid, for cancer patients, I recommend 15 milligrams. 100, 200 times the amount of 200 micrograms. There was a doctor in New York City who was a surgeon who started studying selenium 20 years before anybody, and he developed a line of lipid minerals, and he used to inject high dosages of selenium in this lipid form as chemotherapy. And there was a book written about him, The Doctor Who Cured Cancer, and of course the medical authorities hounded him. brought him to court, you name it. You know the story of when you don't follow the mainstream line. It's their way or the highway, and that doctors are prisoners or slaves to the mainstream medicine that's enforced by local medical boards. Taking 200 micrograms of the wrong type of selenium is not therapeutic. It's a supplement. But taking the dose up to 7 to 15 milligrams, now we're talking medicine. Bicarbonate. Right on the Arm & Hammer's box, it tells you the maximum dosage, 7½ teaspoons a day. But the way to do magnesium bicarbonate medicine is to measure your urinary pH. And if you have cancer, and I wrote a book about this called Rich Man's Poor Man's Cancer Treatment, if you measure your urine, and the idea when you're practicing bicarbonate medicine for serious conditions is to get the urinary pH up to 8. 8.1, 8.2, 8.3 maximum. You don't want to over-alkalize the body, but it's an instant way of increasing one's carbon dioxide and bicarbonate in the blood. Most of carbon dioxide in the blood is in the form of bicarbonates or carbonic acid. Yes, you can take half a teaspoon a day as a supplement, which makes sense, makes more and more sense as we grow older, because our stomach, our pancreas, and our kidneys don't produce as much bicarbonate, which they do every day, as when we're young. So we become bicarbonate deficient, which is another way of saying CO2 deficient. And medical science since 1940 has known that when CO2 goes down in the blood, oxygen goes down with it. And what's the basic cause of cancer? It's the deprivation of oxygen, hypoxic conditions, forcing cells to turn away from using oxygen to using glucose and fermentation to make energy, to survive. So using bicarbonate as a medicine there's an exact dosage. Magnesium is much more flexible. I tell people to drown themselves, cancer patients to drown themselves in magnesium. But again, there's a limit, at least the oral limit, not a transdermal limit. And on and on and on. Iodine is another good subject to talk about dosage. 100 years ago, before the age of antibiotic, you got syphilis, a doctor would give you a gram of iodine. Now doctors don't even, especially here in Brazil, they don't want to give you any iodine. Governments, maybe, I'm not sure, 80 years ago, recognized that iodine was very important, was the cure for goiter, and as such started putting it in the salt. And yet, they don't tell anybody they put very little in the salt. And when you put salt, iodized salt on the table, it evaporates very quickly. So within a few days, there's from very little to almost none. For treating my condition, I talked to Dr. David Brownstein, who I have personal contact with through the years. And treating my vascular condition, he recommended 8 to 16 drops of 5% Rugols. I take 8 drops, which is a pretty strong dosage. Don't do it every day, and I don't depend on just iodine. My medical religion is protocol. It's combining different natural substances that the body needs at high, depending on one's condition, but when treating cancer or heart disease, we want to use high dosages of substances the body needs to stimulate healing.
If you still believe in real healing, not pharmaceutical poisoning, follow me on Substack. You can join for free or as a paid member to go deeper into the medicine that actually saves lives.